I don't know if I care, for one, about the whether or not actually the Conservative Party survives, because I am deeply angry and betrayed by the fact that I campaigned heart and soul for the party in 2019, only to be given a diet of net zero nonsense and all these other things. And the net zero nonsense actually led to this, which is what Ed Miliband has done. Now, there's a lot of text, I realise, but I'll read some of it out. Ed Miliband has just announced that actually, he said, quick explainer, the Tories last year were offered bids for renewable energy. The Tories said that actually the price that they were offering per kilowatt hour or whatever else, that actually that price that they were being offered by industry was too low and that they weren't willing to make it up with subsidy. So they stalled it for another year. So that year is obviously this year. Now, the Labour Party, Ed Miliband, who is the disciple of Greta and green extreme in the most extreme way you can possibly imagine. And he said, oh, goody, goody. What I'll do is I'll, pop this onto the bills of those paying for energy, so energy bill payers, pop it on, maybe a fiddle about with some taxes whilst I'm giving 11 billion quid away in foreign climate aid. Well, I can turn round to the nation and say, look what we've managed to do. We've got all these new green wind farms being built and solar panels, solar panels in Costa del Britain and wind farms that were having to subsidise at the price of goodness only knows what. Even Croesus would blush at the price we're being asked to fork over to actually subsidise these great big windmills. And Ed Miliband saying it's a good thing. Well, Net Zero Watch point out that actually the price for new electricity from offshore wind has actually risen in this latest round to £82 in the current prices, and that's actually a significant 58% increase since the previous successful auction, which was in 2022. And higher prices will lead to higher household bills, and the results raise the already astronomical price tag of meeting Miliband's unrealistic target to decarbonise the power grid by 2030, which is, to be perfectly clear, complete and utter fucking lunacy. And they also point out that a loophole in government contracts could actually end up costing households up to £180 million a year. So not only are the Labour Party taking away pensioners' winter fuel allowance, they're also making energy unnecessarily expensive, decarbonising the grid, which won't happen, by the way, but attempting to do it by 2030, which will cause great pain and expense, and it'll pop that straight on to your bills, as it will this latest funding round for subsidising green energy. And also, the other thing that they're coming after pensioners for was Angela Rayner actually refused to rule out scrapping the single-person council tax discount, which will affect young people and widowed pensioners. So when it comes across the piece, it's just scary. It's scary. That I'm genuinely scared by it. I blame the Tories for doing that. That was a very roundabout way, Alex, of saying that I blame the Tories for getting us into this mess, because they put net zero into law and actually gave these maddos license to do this.
Yeah, this is the thing I was just talking about with those leadership contenders. It's who is the real right winger, who is the person of common sense. But the Tory party's also forgotten that it's now the work. I shouldn't say it is anymore. It isn't. It used to be, at least when Boris got elected, the party of the working classes. The political magnosphere has shifted. The polls have realigned. The Labour Party is the party of snobby elites and wealthy, and the Tories are the party of the working class, or at least they were until reform came along. And all they do is punish people. So look, the Tories have done so much damage. All those powers you saw weaponized after the riots, the censorship powers, were all put in place by the Tories. They were all there. Keir Starmer didn't have to write any new laws; he already has them.
And the online safety bill.
The online safety bill, quite, and then you're going to see those added to with the Islamophobia bill, and possibly one for sexism as well, where you become a terrorist or an extremist for saying anything
Eunice,
Sorry.
how misogynistic? Yeah. Sorry, Alex. Eunice, how worried are you about Labour? Because I've just went through a few things there about what Labour will do and how I actually blame the Tories for getting us into this mess. But Eunice, how worried are you about the making in law Islamophobia? Outlawing it essentially, because the definition defining what Islamophobia is, well, Angela Rayner was asked to do that by Lee Anderson, the Reform MP, and she at the dispatch box floundered like a sort of, I don't know, a goldfish out of a bowl.
Exactly, and they say phobia is an irrational fear of something, and I recently done a video with Reasoned that done quite well actually.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's got like 300,000 views, and I encourage all the viewers to go and watch it. And basically what I do in the video is that I go through the Quran verses that's accepted by all Muslims all around the world. And my question to Keir Starmer and the Labour government is, are we Islamophobic if we question these things? He says in the Quran, and I didn't go for the hadiths, because honestly, if you go for the hadiths, like honestly, your brain like rots in a way. Because the hadiths are so extremely dark that you have no idea. So are we Islamophobic if we question things based on facts? But if we go through the Quran and say, look, this is what it says in the Quran, or this is what it says in the hadiths. And again, as I said, phobia is an irrational fear of something. This is not about protecting the Muslim community. This is about cancelling freedom of speech. And that's just not acceptable in a democratic society.
Yeah, Chloe, I think you did a little video. You've definitely covered Lee Anderson got at the as a Reform MP. I was going to say at the dispatch box. That was in my dreams.
I did do a video on that. Him asking Angela Rayner about the Islamophobia definition yesterday. I mean, it was just embarrassing for Angela Rayner. I mean, she just mumbled and bumbled and couldn't put a sentence together. It's like, I'll have to think about that. We'll have to give careful consideration to any definition that we provide for that. We will give one in due course. She's got absolutely no bloody clue. And if the Labour Party are going to talk bang on about Islamophobia all of the time, at least don't do it until you've decided what your definition is, so that people know what you're talking about and so that people have an idea of what's allowed and what's not allowed, right? We had in the run up to the general election, I don't know if many of you viewers saw that video of Keir Starmer and Sadiq Khan sort of sitting down on the sofa having a heart-to-heart about how bad Islamophobia is and how we really need to clamp down on it, especially on social media. They said, or Sadiq Khan specifically,
we're all going to prison.
Yeah, but the thing is I don't want the Labour Party to say Islamophobia is illegal, but if you're going to do it, at least make it very, very clear what it is, because if you make it vague, everyone is terrified to say anything because they don't know what's included and what's not included.
That's the point. That's the point.
The hilarious thing about this all is that they're so desperate to legislate against something they can't even define. They have told you they hate it. They hate whatever this boogeyman is of Islamophobia, but they don't know the definition of it. It's absolutely bonkers. It's basically saying, we want to write legislation about something we have no clue what it is, some ethereal thing, but we really want to ban it.
But that's what
everyone needs to know.
Is that not what they're doing across the piece, though, Alex? Like, this is government by virtue signalling, isn't it? Like on the net zero issue, on the Islamophobia issue, on the all of it.
Well, quite. And the important thing to know is the reason why they're not giving you any definitions of anything is because they want to make sure it's so vague, as Chloe said, you're scared about it being vague. They want to make it so vague that they can weaponize it the same way this online safety bill has been able to have people locked up for writing posts on social media, because it's vague enough that it covers that. And that's the problem with current writing of legislation, is that they keep it vague and they say, we need a broad definition to protect people. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. They want to use it so they can weaponize it.
Yeah, well, can I call on them to legislate against whiteophobia, because there's an awful lot of that going around at the minute.
Absolutely.
Can I just say one last thing about this? Is that when they use the word phobia, it's a virtue signaling word, because, you cannot speak about Islam, you're Islamophobic, or you can't have an opinion on LGBTQ, you're homophobic, or you can't have an opinion on immigration, you're xenophobic. And again, phobia is an irrational fear of something. There is no irrational fear of Islam if you truly understand it, okay? And they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Let's assume Labour government is doing this because they want to protect Muslims, okay? Which they are not, by the way. It is all about control and all about infringing our free speech.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, a democracy can only survive and thrive when people have the freedom of speech to question any ideology, regardless of what it is. And when you can't have that right, you are no different than a dictatorship. And this Labour government is taking us on a fast track to dictatorship, and they are hiding their utterances in kindness. And that's just absolute nonsense.
Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.